Right. We are in the next episode because we finished the last one, and Robert was like, "Hey, you want to do the next one about?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?"
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So remember, I don't remember if you said this on the podcast about the punk rocker mentality or not, but I remember you asked me, "Is there anything we actually disagree on?" And I thought
Mm-hmm.
about it for a second, and I said alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely disagree on that. So I guess this will be a Catholic perspective on alcohol. Um, right? I am pro. And what is your position?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily like a Puritan when it comes to alcohol. I just don't really find it something as like, just don't really find it like necessary.
Okay. I mean, but like, would you ever? So like, the way in which I consume alcohol, you don't see that as a bad thing.
Um, well, I actually don't know how much alcohol you consume, so
Okay.
I mean, just from what I see, like I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a problem. Like I just wouldn't say that it's like beneficial to you,
In what sense exactly?
like health wise,
Yeah.
because like alcohol is like technically like poison.
Technically, I mean, yeah, but I mean, so is sugar. I mean, sugar's not technically good for your health.
Yeah, but the problem,
If anything, I
the
think alcohol is actually probably better for you than like excess sugar.
well, excess sugar. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
you actually like need sugar at least a little bit, I
Well, because you have
believe,
sugar in
to
your
survive.
well, yeah, because you have sugar in your blood.
But like
I know
you,
that. Yeah.
like the only alcohol like you need is in communion.
Yeah, I guess so.
But like
Um.
besides that, like
Well,
I just don't see really like the need for it.
well, I mean, you have to remember the historical context of alcohol because for several, you know, millennium actually, I mean, like it was just it was very unsafe to drink water
Mm-hmm.
and to drink all these other things. Even milk, I think, because that would like spoil really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so alcohol is what like people would drink alcohol because that was one of the only actually things you could drink that wouldn't like go bad because alcohol like just
Yeah.
it kills bacteria and stuff like that and it gives you like carbs and calories and there's only like especially like in like medieval Europe there's only so much like you could consume so like people would like drink beer and like just have like a wheel of cheese as like a way of like getting carbs and calories to just
Yeah.
get through like the peasant work and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like alcohol is. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of alcohol it is too.
That's part of it, I
Because
think so,
I
yeah.
know that like in the modern day, I just don't really think it's the the culture around alcohol. I think is kind of toxic.
Yeah, I
And
agree with
I
you.
think alcohol itself it is toxic.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the drinking culture in this country, and I think especially the UK, is just so bad. It
Yeah.
is so destructive. Just because people, because you got to remember, um, like there's nothing in the created world that's like evil, so to
Mhm.
speak, because God made it. There's a purpose for it. So like all these things that we find in the created world can be good,
Yeah.
it's just like what context do we use it in, right? So I feel like there's certain like cultural sort of barriers that we have to like enjoy alcohol in the right way in the right context, right? And obviously there's a distinction like you said between different kinds of alcohol and that's why most circles there's a distinction between beer and wine and hard alcohol because hard alcohol is actually something that's very recent, right? Like
So like well, like hard alcohol would be like vodka, right?
yeah, vodka or whiskey, those haven't really been around
Yeah.
since like,
Like I think those are like for example like when people say like it's an acquired taste, I'm like, well, I don't really feel like acquiring that taste.
well, I mean, yeah, it's just a personal thing. I
Yeah, but
mean,
like it's just strange to me for things like whiskey where like it's like you're not a man if you don't have you don't drink a whiskey and like you have to acquire the taste and you're basically drinking poison and it tastes like crap and
I don't, yeah,
it makes you fat and it's just like I just really don't think
liquor doesn't make you fat, but Beer does. Um,
Oh,
because like you could survive for longer if you're just consuming beer, but if you're just consuming liquor, like you will literally be dried out and be like a corpse
hmm.
because you have like almost no nutrition. Because beer, you gotta remember, is mostly just like wheat and
Yeah,
like grain, so like you
yeah.
get some nutrition there.
But why
And
not just eat bread?
well, I'm not saying that's optimal, but I'm just kind of
Yeah,
just illustrating the differences between different
yeah.
kinds of alcohols. And obviously like because you have to remember like alcohol is a gift from God. It should be enjoyed. It's just you cannot like it's just like any other kind of food or things we consume. You
Mhm.
cannot do it in excess because like if you get too drunk, like at that point you're literally just
But like,
you're just an
but
animal.
like, is the potential for that abuse like really worth like starting to drink? If that makes sense.
I mean, you just gotta have discipline because you gotta remember a lot of times like people become alcoholics because like the actual state of their lives is just not in order. They're not responsible. And I think having the alcohol on top of that with like messed up relations, messed up just like everything in your life, that's not going to make it any
So,
better.
so do you think the real problem with alcohol is because there is a problem
There
with
definitely is, and I'm
alcohol
never going to
in our
deny
society?
that. Yeah.
So, because people get alcoholism,
Yes, they
and
do.
some people are more genetically prone to that than other people. Is it really worth it to encourage like a drinking culture? Because like a lot of people are like for example, I don't drink,
Hmm.
but I am really like likely to like possess like a genetic predisposition to like become an alcoholic. My you know my father is,
Right.
and my aunts were, and many of my family members have died from alcohol.
Yeah.
So like, and that's a big reason why I chose not to drink is because I know that I have a genetic predisposition to become an alcoholic.
Well, I mean, yeah, like there's certain people like that they know that if they have one bite of the sweets, they're gonna just like shovel their face with the
Yeah,
sweets because different people deal with different vices.
yeah,
But I just feel um, like when you say the drinking culture, I think it's just it's really what you're talking about is like the perverted, corrupted drinking culture
hmm,
because drinking culture, like true drinking culture, can actually be something very positive. It brings people together, can create a lot of camaraderie and stuff like that, like
yeah,
good company, and also some of the greatest conversations about the faith and Christianity were just like men just sitting at bars having a beer and just gonna because it gets you to kind of just think about it maybe in a slightly different way,
hmm,
and it just and also that's another thing
it
about drinking is
relaxes you.
it yeah it can and also just gets you to just talk and talk and talk
Yeah,
like you almost never. I'm not saying you need alcohol to
yeah,
be like this and to be normal. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's
hmm,
just kind of like in a similar sense like with like it in any kind of celebratory fashion when you have like these lavish like foods and all this stuff. Like it's just you gotta have it right in the right way. Like food on like like eating a little bit more food, maybe having something a little more like fatty or sugary or something like that on like a feast day or like a special occasion.
yeah,
That's very different than doing it all day every day, right?
yeah, yeah. So I guess alcohol is meant to be more of a celebratory, kind of like a how would I say like you're not supposed to be like drinking a bunch of you're not supposed to be like crushing a bunch of beer cans in
No,
like the basement
no,
like by
that's
yourself like doing something.
no, that's incredibly sinful because you have to remember, like, you can't. The church teaches like you can't drink with the intention of getting drunk
Yeah.
because getting drunk is a mortal sin. Drinking alcohol, the mere drinking of alcohol is not a sin,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
the,
we do that in communion.
exactly, and that's part of, like there's a communal aspect to alcohol, specifically wine. Like there's centuries and millennia in our tradition as Christians of drinking wine. Like it's a mark of like the blood of Christ, and it also reminds you of your own um your own flesh, right? And that you are flesh, but also because Christ himself became flesh in the incarnation, he sanctified matter, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you and as you drink it, like Roger Scruton in his book I Drink Therefore I Am had an incredible apology, not just for alcohol, because some alcohols he's actually against, but specifically for wine. Like as you drink it, you have all the tastes and it goes down like through your esophagus and like you just and it gets into your stomach like you would just it makes you aware of like your own flesh and that God created you and that you are matter, right? Because God loves matter. God does like because you got to remember we're not Gnostics. We're not anti matter. We're not anti pleasure, right? Because God, um, he created matter and he actually communicates a lot of
Mm-hmm.
his truths and his mysteries through matter, right? Specifically the wine, right?
Yeah. So like um the thing is with alcohol, it's like it, it it's it's kind of like, from what I understand, like alcohol in general. I mean, I know there's different kinds of alcohol, but like
Yeah.
it's something that is potentially dangerous.
Well, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
like water, for example, isn't necessarily like dangerous
Right.
unless you like, in terms of like consumption.
Yeah.
Like they're really, you can't really like.
Well, so your body wants water, whereas your
Well,
body does not really want
yeah,
alcohol.
you basically
It
like,
irritates your stomach, actually.
yeah, like
Yeah.
like you can't like you can't drink so much water. I mean, you probably could if you kept drinking a
Oh,
bunch
you
of.
can get water toxicity.
But
Yeah.
like it's very difficult to like drink a bunch of water and then basically be um like not fully,
Functional.
yeah, and like that's something that can happen, relatively easy with alcohol,
I
and that's
wouldn't say
something.
relatively easily. It just you got to remember it just depends person by person,
Yeah,
right? Because some
yeah,
people just have that predisposition, like you said, and it'd just be better if they don't do it
yeah,
because they know they're gonna abuse the hell out of it.
yeah.
Whereas me, obviously, um, I'm part Jewish, right? And Jewish people have some of the lowest rates of alcoholism
Mm,
amongst almost any people. Like they have a very good relationship with it in the sense that like their day to day life doesn't like revolve around like getting the drink. You
yeah.
know, it just comes when it comes. Sometimes I might elect to have a drink. Sometimes I might be more in the mood to drink a little bit more or something like that. But I'm not always in that mood. Sometimes
Mm.
like I'll just get occupied or distracted by other things, right? Like it's just, and it's also in Jewish spheres, right? And also even in Catholic spheres, um, like alcohol is a normal thing because I think that's really what it should be. Like people like shouldn't have this sort of like mystical like people like mystify and like deify alcohol like it's like this like forbidden like it's the secret sauce, it's the forbidden, you got to get the cookie out of the cookie jar. Like no, I think alcohol, that's also a problem
So like
is
I would say I'm trying to think like you would akin to like put alcohol at the same level as like sugar.
not necessarily, I mean, because
Or
I
because like with sugar, like you can eat a little bit and it's enjoyable, it's fun, but like there's a potential for like misuse
well
and
yeah.
tragedy actually if you get
Well, yeah,
diabetes.
right. I was just drawing a comparison to how like you can take something that's good and it can become a vice, and it depends on person to person, right? Because obviously, like sugar, right? It's not a bad thing. Like it tastes good. That's good. God wants us to like have fun. Obviously, we can't just be on the grinding stone forever. But and obviously, like for me, like if I eat too much sugar, if I eat too much like desserts, I'll feel like really bad.
Yeah,
And that's kind of like a natural inhibitor for me to be like, okay, I'm done.
yeah,
Right. And it's the same thing with alcohol. Like if I drink too much alcohol, I feel tired. I feel dehydrated. Like I'll get a headache and I'll wake up the next morning just like feeling not great. And it's like, okay, that kind of gets me to not really drink that much as maybe I sometimes maybe want to more than others. I don't know. But I feel like but then there's some people obviously where that bad feeling they don't even care about that when it comes to sugar, alcohol.
Yeah.
tobacco,
Well, they're
any
addicted to it.
right, and they don't even care about the bad feeling because they just want the good feeling again. Right, so they don't care if they're going to get hungover or that
Mm.
they're going to feel tired after eating all the excess sugar because they just want it again. Right, whereas me, I have enough constructive things going on in my life where once I feel bad, I'm gonna just start thinking about other things that I need to
So
do that
so
I'd rather do.
so maybe alcohol should be like alcohol consumption necessarily shouldn't be encouraged for all people, or like alcohol
Hmm.
consumption should be encouraged for like people who are like well put together as kind of like a relaxer
Yeah,
rather
well,
than it be like because I feel like if you give a bottle of wine to someone like you, where you have other constructive things going on in your life,
that's right.
and you're
Yeah,
using it as a relaxer as
and it can also be like an intellectual kind of stimulant.
yeah, but like if
Um,
you give that same bottle of wine to like someone,
a bum or
yeah,
like
bomb, like
that's
they're
very
gonna. So
different. Yeah.
I guess alcohol like really has to do with like the other things you have going on in your life and your
Yes.
personal tolerance. Because like the reason
Yeah. No, because I think it actually has little to do with the actual alcohol itself.
it
It's
has to do with
more
the
so
person.
exactly
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, because like I know for me, like my also I mean I've been kind of traumatized from alcohol.
Right.
My aunts, they both were alcoholics, and
Yeah.
when they died, we had to clean out their house, and their my aunt's house was completely filled to the brim with empty alcohol
It was just
bottles,
a
and
cesspool of yeah.
I just associated alcohol with death,
Yeah.
with
Like
death,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
and then on top of that, alcohol is literally poison, and it's killed a lot of my family members. So like from my perspective, it's just not really worth it. And then you hear about people, like I don't have a really strong like when it comes to vices.
Yeah.
I know I'm very prone to that. Like I eat too much sugar.
So you're saying you have like that kind of like
Like I
addictive
have
personality?
yeah, like I
Okay,
have
I
that. So
see.
I
Yep.
know that alcohol for someone like me would be very dangerous. It's
Right.
like basically when I see an alcohol bottle, I see like not quite death, but as in like
Well, it's very.
the,
I mean, it's understandable. I mean, like it's kind of traumatizing in a
yeah,
sense,
and it's
and I understand that.
like when I look at an alcohol bottle, I think of men who like eventually like beat their wives because they're drunk, or people getting into car crashes and killing little children, or it brings up a lot of negative
Yeah.
feelings. But the thing is, all those things are real and all those things are happen. But on the other side, there's people like you who use it as more of a relaxer, and you're able to
Right.
not give into the vice, and you're able. So I guess I can see how it'd be beneficial for a person like you, but it would be very
Yeah.
destructive for a person like me.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like you need to like. It's basically because there's arguments about like because there's people that like will say like oh like this alcohol just wasn't hit like the drunk wasn't hidden in the same way and it's like well what's going on in your life because I feel like if you are like doing constructive things right you're thinking about Jesus Christ you have an active relationship with him right and you're attending mass and you're praying or you're maybe if you're some other type of Christian you're fulfilling other obligations
Yeah.
right and you have just like you have things set up it's in order right I think order is the key
Yeah.
then like enjoying alcohol in moderation can be a great thing right
So maybe for me, alcohol might be something that like I'd be able to enjoy if I, put other things together in my life. Or maybe it's
yeah
something I should never touch because of my genetic predisposition.
well I don't know I mean like because I mean knowing you I know you don't really have much experience with it I mean you got to just remember a lot of this is just trial and error like everyone's gonna have like a bad moment from alcohol thankfully like I've never done anything like destructive when I've been in those
So
kind
like
of bad
explain to
situations
me like your worst moment with alcohol.
I don't know I mean just being dizzy and thrown up and it was never because of something I did to somebody else
Ah, yeah.
it's just kind of feeling that sort of hell of just like you're dizzy, you throw up, and you just feel like
And that's
really
another thing that
dehydrated.
makes me like not want to drink alcohol because I'm afraid of that feeling.
Yeah,
Like I
no,
really don't want to
I
have
am too. Like
beer.
I do not enjoy that at all, and that's part of the reason why when I drink it, I don't drink
Mhm.
as much. You know.
And so the other thing I want to ask you about is cigarettes.
Well, actually, we're gonna talk about that
Yeah,
now. There was another thing you asked was should alcohol be promoted?
yeah.
And I think that's a very important question because actually, when you look at in Jewish circles,
Hmm.
you're actually in certain types, you're actually required to drink alcohol.
Really?
Yes, as
Hmm.
a part of the community, the
I
camaraderie.
guess it's just like with communion. Like if you're gonna take communion, you gotta partake.
Yeah, no, and certain Jewish holidays, like you were required to get at least a little bit intoxicated every year
Wow, I did not know
for
that.
certain festivities, right? Because
Huh.
they want everyone to just be together, right?
Oh, so that's
Because you could,
that.
and you got to remember, like Jewish communities, like aren't really like Jewish community, like Orthodox Jewish communities that are really observant, like they're not destructive. They all like their kids almost always turn out well.
Yeah.
You know, prosperity. You know, everyone's together. They have tight knit communities, good relationships, right?
Hmm.
So that is like the prime example, and I think some like Catholic communities is the same, like prime example of like this is the right way to do it.
Hmm.
Whereas like the wrong way to do alcohol is like going out to bars, going out to clubs, just getting pissed drunk. Like
Losing your reasoning faculties.
that is precisely it. Yes, because if you lose your faculties of reason, because you got to remember, you cannot ingest anything that gets you to lose your faculties of reason.
Yeah.
It's different with alcohol because there's a distinction between drinking alcohol and getting drunk,
Yeah.
right? But there's no distinction between like, you know, smoking weed and getting high or like
Yeah.
doing cocaine
You're
and getting
going
that
to be
buzz.
high if you smoke.
Right, exactly, because that's the purpose of it. Because there's more to alcohol than just, you know, literally being
Yeah.
intoxicated. There's an like art to making it. Like there's different taste. Like it's food
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know, when you really think
So
about it.
so now I really because this is something uh that like surprises me about you is that like you smoke cigarettes.
I do,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like what is your like like explain to me like why you smoke cigarettes.
I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, part of it, I'm going to be totally honest,
Uh-huh.
is partially a LARP, you
Yeah.
know, just to like
Yeah.
get that
Hey,
image,
at least
right?
you're honest.
Yes, I mean, but that's not everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, I mean, I personally enjoy the taste, the aroma of tobacco almost in any sort of like if it's cigarettes or if it's cigars. Um, like, like think of it like clothes, right? I partially dress in the way I do because it gives that image. It's cool,
The
right?
large, yeah.
Yes, but I
But
also
then
like
it's also real in a sense too.
yes, and then also but
Because you're known as someone who wears those things.
yes, and then also like I think about it, I'm like, no, you know what? I genuinely do like the clothes I wear.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like the style. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like that, like where it's like you realize, okay, the reason we do the things we do and the things we like, yes, obviously it's partially gonna be to some extent because like it gives off that kind of look. Not always, but you actually realize like, oh wait, I actually do like it. Right? And there's actually a reason, okay, well, maybe there actually is a reason why so many people do this, right? And it's because like I don't know, like cigarettes. Are you talking about cigarettes specifically, or just
Yeah.
any tobacco?
Well, I'm not as I'm very anti-cigarette.
Yes.
I'm mostly anti-cigar. I know cigars necessarily aren't that bad for you, and I know like
Yeah,
I think it's also harder to get addicted to cigars than it is to get addicted to cigarettes.
that is very true.
Yeah. Well, like with cigarettes, cigarettes are one of those things where it's like I never smoked a cigarette.
Mm,
Um, I I am like to me, I know like people get addicted to cigarettes, but like
yeah.
I just am curious about like that allure to cigarettes.
Well, I mean, think about it like this: like, I haven't had a cigarette all day, and like, I'm not like shaking, like,
Yeah.
because you got to remember, like, it's like, are you living for the high, or are you just getting the high as a sort of way to like, just kind of elevate the good stuff you already
So a
have.
cigarette kind of gets you high then.
Well, no, no, no,
Not
no,
high,
no, no,
but
no.
like
High was used as a sort of, you know, like I was using
it
it in a
doesn't. It
different
doesn't inhibit
sense.
your reasoning faculty.
No,
No.
no, it does not at all. No, because
It just
all it does,
relaxes you, right?
it relaxes you and it also gets you to sort of it increase it's kind of like caffeine where it just kind of gets your heart rate going, gets you like gets your brain kind of like just it gets the gears grinding and like moving so that like your brain thinks okay, let's just get some stuff done like for menial tasks, right? So like I don't know like what because you don't really drink coffee or
No,
caffeine, right?
I mean I will sometimes, but it's not something that's a habit of mine.
Okay, yes, but so like when you drink coffee, you just kind of have this sense of like you just start being more like productive, right? And you start being more industrious, and you just start being like like when I drink coffee, like sometimes I've like just had like some of my greatest ideas and like ingenuity has come from me
Mm.
drinking coffee, right? Because I get that sort of like, okay, let me just work something out. Like if I have some great idea, but I haven't really like mapped it out, and like I drink a coffee and then I can map it out,
Huh.
right? And I think it's the same thing with cigarettes, and because like these, it gets you to sort of like overcome these menial tasks that like at first glance become kind of just like tedious. But then if you like drink a little coffee or like smoke a cigarette, it's like all right, let's go. Come on.
But
That's why it's
yeah,
popular for like working class people,
but like,
right?
what about the lung damage?
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say that doesn't happen, but you got to remember that doesn't always happen because there's people that I know smoke cigarettes until they were like 90 and they died of something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yeah,
well, yeah, and also it just depends on how much you're doing it,
yeah,
right? Because I feel like anything, like I said with alcohol, with caffeine too, especially. I know a lot of people that have like that are like caffeine crack addicts,
yeah,
right? Um, it just it has to be enjoyed in moderation, aka appropriate amounts, right? Because if you were chain smoking cigarettes, going through a pack a day, like you got to seriously think about that.
yeah,
Like, okay, like that's like a pack a day. That's 20 cigarettes in a day. That's like like think about how often you're doing that.
yeah.
That's a little bit like it gets to the point where you don't even feel anything anymore, right?
Yeah, you become
Like it dumbs
you
you
like
down.
you
Yeah,
build up a resistance to the effect,
exactly. Right. So
and
because
that's dangerous.
right, and it's in a similar
If
fashion.
you have to do more to, and then that will lead to
Mhm.
lung to serious lung damage.
Exactly. Just like how like because people that are just constantly sipping on those sodas, those big gulps, like just constantly, like it just is never insatiable. Like those are the people that are going to get diabetes. You know, um, like heart disease and all that stuff, and all these terrible things. And it's like, well, the thing is, like with the lung cancer and all that stuff, like I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't even really smoke
Yeah,
that many day to day. Like,
but like, but like, is the reward of feeling relaxed and having a little bit of like mental clarity, is that worth the potential risk to you?
well, think
Because
about it.
for me, it's not.
Well, think about it this way. I'm not doing it like I don't do it because, and this goes with all of these sort of um, substances that we've mentioned. I'm not doing them because I feel down or because I feel bad and I
Yeah,
want to
and that's
feel
also
good.
what separates you from a lot of other people.
Yes, because you have to remember, like I feel good, like just kind of like as like a baseline because I have Christ. I know Christ. I know that Christ loves me, right? I just I'm very relaxed and very like tranquil because I know that everything in the end is going to be okay again, and that Christ is Lord. He's our Savior, right? He is God, and I know that He is the reason for everything, right? And so having that mindset, like I can always just like rest knowing that everything's going to be okay,
Yeah.
right? Whereas I feel like if you're doing this because you don't know that everything's going to be okay,
Hmm.
then that's when it becomes problematic, and you just do it just to just kind of like overcompensate for the sort of negative feelings you have
Mm.
in your head. Like, because you could see like a lot of people that like go into these sort of addictions are actually people that just like deal with like poverty, right? Or, just like destitution,
Well,
generally
it's
speaking,
it's it's to escape.
to escape the
Yeah,
hardship.
like
Yeah.
for someone like you, or for someone like Tolkien who like smoked pipes and stuff like
Hmm.
it's
I drank a lot of beer.
it's a additive. It's a relaxer. It's a tool for
To doing constructive things.
yeah.
Because you got to remember,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, in terms of like an intellectual sense.
well, yes, because you got to remember, like I said, some of the greatest conversations about the faith that ever happened were done at like pubs and over drinking, right?
Yeah.
And it gets you to sort of like, I'm not saying like you achieve like, oh, these like intellectual state. It's not about like this Gnosticism, like you achieve the higher realm. It's that's not what it's about. It just kind of gets you in that sense, like it's kind of hard to describe. Like it kind of hones you in on sort of like I'm in the moment, I'll just enjoy it,
Yeah.
And because you're in the moment and you accept that and you're just going to enjoy it, it kind of gets you to start thinking about the higher things like God, right?
Hmm.
The angels, the saints, the faith, the church,
Oh it
history,
gets you relaxed, and when you're relaxed, you're not filled with worry. And when you're not filled with
about what's going to
worry,
happen. Like,
your mind
exactly, yeah.
it creates space for your mind to be able to actually think. And
Right.
when you're like not necessarily forced to think, but when you're open to just loose thinking, you have to think about
The abstract.
well, I mean, well, if you have the capacity to, because not everyone
Not
really
everyone
does.
does, and that's also
But
another
what I'm
important
saying is
thing.
like if you're the person like you're not distracted and you're not filled with worry and you're able to have a moment of thought. Oftentimes when my mind is empty, I think about things like my own death, or
Yes.
my relationship with God, or where I am in the universe and
Yeah, and
would I
the
really matter,
nature of
and
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
the nature of things. And I guess that can these substances can be useful in that sense, but I feel like you would have to be a certain caliber of person, and I don't
Yes.
consider myself to be
Right.
that caliber of a person for that.
And that's fair
Yeah,
enough.
and
But you got to remember, I'm not forcing you to drink
no,
alcohol.
no, I
I'm not
know,
like
no,
you don't drink.
yeah,
Like I'm never gonna be like that.
yeah,
Of course, I would always recommend it. I mean, especially like, dude, like look how far you've come.
yeah,
And also like um there's just a lot like because you got to remember like it's not just to chase this sort of fleeting feeling like there's a huge culture when it comes to drinking not only wine but coffee and you know
mhm,
um tea,
yeah.
right? That I'm not as into, but like I still
Yeah.
recognize that as
Well,
really cool.
I actually like drinking tea more than coffee.
Yeah, my a lot of my family actually is the same way.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I, I would prefer a nice like I like green teas.
Green teas,
I
yeah.
like black teas too, but I like the green teas. I think they're flavorful. I think they're like something about it. Like when you drink it, it's almost like you can breathe better a little bit. It's just it
Yeah,
has a little bit of a like coffee to me. It's like kind of like
rich and like just kind of in your face.
yeah. Well, it also like it's
Tea's
like
more like elegant and
yeah, yeah, and that's like I feel
yeah.
like if you're like gonna go like drink coffee, like you're about to like go work a blue collar job, and like that's just what I feel like. But like if you're like,
I'm not,
but like
yeah,
if
because
you're
I'm not the
gonna
same
if
way.
you're gonna like drink tea, like you're going out for like a picnic, or you're relaxing in your chair, or maybe have a cigar and you're drinking a little bit of tea. I'm not saying you can't do that with coffee, but like just it seems like tea is like not something you would see someone like bring into work to like start a work day.
That's fair. I mean, some people do,
Yeah.
especially if it's like a sweet tea from like McDonald's.
Well,
I don't know if that's
that's
necessarily
that's that's
tea.
not that doesn't count.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the coffee, like coffee doesn't like make me feel like jittery. Like if anything, coffee just makes me just feel like kind of like just like how would I describe it without just the image is like if there's a video, people could just be like it just makes me just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
like how would you say not stoic, but like you can kind of see what I'm saying, like where
You're collected.
I'm collected. Yes, I'm very reserved. If anything, yeah, it gets me to kind of like be more aware of my surroundings.
Yeah.
That's another important thing.
Well, it's a stimulant.
Yes, exactly. And that's why. I mean, I drink coffee every day, drink it every morning. No more than I typically only have just a cup in the morning. Maybe I'll have like a cup in the afternoon, but that's a maybe, right? But like I feel like it's problem if you're drinking like multiple a day, like just because there's
Yeah.
people that like just drink like six
So
times a
so
day,
let,
drink
let
a
me let me
coffee.
tell you about let me tell you I had a boss in my job and
Okay.
he recently retired, but he would drink I think about 12 cups of coffee a day.
Ooh, yeah.
And he only slept 3 hours a night.
Oh,
And basically
that's terrible.
he like I guess he just built up a really like high tolerance to like caffeine. It wasn't necessarily unhealthy. I mean, he's older. He's 73 and
Yeah.
he's still running. He goes up and down the ladders and everything. Real healthy guy. But the thing is, he's running on coffee, and I feel like
Well, you got to remember if it helps you get through your
yeah. Well,
day,
but like also like for me, it's
because
like
that's why. I mean, because you got to remember a lot of these things and like why people take them. It's just because they're trying to get through the day.
yeah. But like I feel like
And
there's
he's like, and
always
he's also doing things because you got to
yeah
remember it's one thing
yeah
if you're just sitting on if you're sitting on your butt just playing video games and just going to get coffee 6 times a day. That's very
yeah
just that's extremely different
yeah
than some
yeah.
guy who's working on a construction site
Yeah,
or working in
yeah,
the
and
job that you're in. That's very
so but
different.
like it's just like one of those things where it's like I feel like if I get develop a dependency on alcohol or cigarettes or caffeine or even sugar, like it's like if I don't have that, it's like I'm kind of like a slave to it, and that's something that I like fear.
No, and that's a good point because you don't want to be reliant on these things, but also you have to remember like it's not only that you become reliant. It's not that you become reliant. It's that you think that you're reliant on it. So you have to build like mental resistance and
Ah,
build the kind of willpower of like you know what I don't need that right when it
yeah.
comes to any vice because that's why Saint Augustine and Saint Paul almost all the early um, church fathers talk about how you're either a slave to vice or you're a slave to Christ, right?
Ah,
And this is related to the debate ever since the Enlightenment, right? Of what is freedom,
mhm,
right? And when you learn in the actual traditional sense, in the Christian sense, freedom is freedom from sin,
yeah,
right? And I think like you really need the freedom from sin,
mhm.
the willpower, the acceptance of Christ, and once you have that, then you can start enjoying these things in the right sense.
Oh, wonderful.
You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
so
Like
I think
it's really a
I
personal
yeah I
thing.
think
Yeah.
it has to do with it's not so much about the substance itself, it's about the caliber of the person.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's how you take. Well,
Yeah.
because you got to remember, even with substance that in Catholicism you're not allowed to take, like if you are a well-formed person, God will still work with that, and He's gonna make it so that it's not as bad,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna actually be as corrupted from it.
Yeah,
If you
I
like, that's what
yeah.
a priest told me. Actually, I
Yeah.
thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever really thought
But
about that.
yeah, I mean that was I just wanted to pick your brain on that cuz that's one thing that like is like we agree on a lot of things, but that's one of those things where it's like now I wouldn't say I necessarily have a disagreement with you now, but it's more like I was just kind of curious as to like I wanted to pick your brain on your
Well,
thought
yeah,
process.
and this isn't like a test of like, okay, I'm gonna convince you to do alcohol, or you're gonna convince me to not do it. Like you have a certain outlook on it, and I have a certain outlook
Mm,
on it, and it's just okay. What do we both think?
yeah.
Because and I think that's what it should be when it comes to a lot of different things, right? When you get into other realms like you know certain theological church disagreements,
Mm,
right? Like because I spent lots of time like studying Orthodox
yeah.
Christianity, different Protestant sects, because like I actually want to know, okay, what is it that you believe and why
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like that's the same thing as like just should we enjoy a certain substance,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, no, and if you're actually curious more on not just my perspective, but theologians' perspectives on like alcohol and whatnot, um, Saint Thomas Aquinas has tons of commentary on alcohol use and whatnot, and is it permissible or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It is in his view. But also, I was going to say specifically going back to how you're saying there's different kinds of alcohol. Beer is actually it has its roots in monasticism in the monasteries.
Yeah, there's uh there's remember like one of the monks that came. This is when I was Orthodox. One of the monks they came and they were talking about how they make like beer,
Yes.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
the beer brewing comes
Monks
yeah.
making beer? Like that just sounds like so. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to understand like why they do that.
Well, yeah, because you got to remember, like monks, like specifically Catholic monks, probably some of like the happiest people on the face of the earth, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, what is the point of monasticism?
Yeah.
The point of monasticism is to kind of like leave behind this sort of temporal matters to just think just on God, right? And that's why some of the most like some of the greatest theological works in all of Christianity have come from monasteries and like people who live that kind of lifestyle, like St. Thomas
Hmm.
Aquinas, right? Because all they're doing all day, every day is just praying and thinking about God,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that like because you got to remember like
Well, that's what people do in heaven.
that's right, yeah, because
That's the closest you can get to heaven. Is like
right,
basically being in mass.
exactly, because the mass is literally heaven on earth. It's heaven coming down and being on earth, right? And God literally dwelling among us in the Eucharist, right? And also like that's why I think monasticism will always be important. And I've gotten into debates with people that say like, oh, it's useless. You can just everyone like all prayers are equal, and that's true.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes, my prayer is equal to that of a monastic,
Well, I heard that
but also not exactly because you
well,
got to remember they've undertaken a specific sacrament.
well, not only that, but like for
Yeah.
example, um, I know people like when they offer they ask Mary to pray for them is because Mary is at a certain like she's very like there's
Well,
I wouldn't
there's
say there's levels of holiness, but there's a scale of it.
well no there's levels of reverence is what you're referring to. So I forget the other names. So it's like the reverence that's reserved for God alone, and then there's one that's reserved for specifically and only Mary, and then there's the angels and the saints.
Wow.
Right? So I know the one that refers to Mary is hyperdulia.
Hmm.
Hyperdulia is the reverence that is reserved only for Mary because there is something special and unique about her, right? But yeah, like in a sense, like monks and other religious, like the priests and whatnot, they are like they have entered a deeper relationship with God
Yeah.
because they've made certain
Yeah. Well, also
vows.
they spend more time. They like
Yes,
you spend
no,
a lot of
exactly.
time with someone, you understand them. I mean, God is a man. He's a person.
He is. He
You
is a
know.
person. He's not some abstract, idea.
Yeah, and
Well, he partially is, but he's
yeah,
also like he is a person,
yeah. I
and he
mean,
came down here and he
he
was with us.
his body was pierced just like a human. He was human. Well, he is human.
Yes,
His body is was pierced.
yes, and he underwent all of the sufferings that any human would have gone through,
Wow.
right? And that's why the Christian faith I can just see like is the true faith because it appeals to everyone. Like
Yeah.
everyone like, in the Christian faith, everyone can find
Well,
something.
Christianity is the only religion where God comes down himself and becomes man,
Yeah,
Son of Man.
exactly. Because no other in every other religion, God
It's
is
prophet
either
this, prophet that,
prophet
but
that God is evil, God's died, God's resurrect,
God
God's
doesn't exist.
right. God doesn't exist. There's billion gods, right? But no, like G.K. Chesterton, the brilliant writer, he always has like the best quotes. He put it this way: every other religion is about man's search for God. Christianity is about God's search for man.
Yeah, it's fundamentally different,
Yeah, no, and another
and it's fundamentally opposed.
yeah, no, and that's what makes you realize, like, because you have to ask yourself, and this is like a really question, because obviously, yes, I was born Catholic, I had these like foundations, but everyone has to come to the point where it's like, okay, do I believe this or do I
Yeah.
not, right? And so I just thought to myself, okay, what makes Christianity different than other religions,
Yeah.
right?
I
What
mean,
is it about our confession of
the
faith that's
biggest
different?
one, the biggest one is the Creator Himself came down and dwelt among us as one of us. That's the great scandal our of
To other religions?
of
Yeah,
our religion.
yeah, no, and that's actually why you'd see that. That's actually that's part of um why we need the church, because the church helped us to fully understand that Jesus Christ is fully
Yeah,
God and fully
yeah,
man,
yeah,
because the first certain amount of councils is about the divinity of
yeah,
Christ, right? And that's why, and I think in Christianity you also realize that like matter is good, right?
yeah,
Like our human nature is good, right? Like you see, like actually, like because I feel like really only in the Christian lens can you see um like the value of every human being, because every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, we have human rights,
yeah,
right? And that's why like Christianity. I think actually, what if Altest actually agrees with me in this respect? He made a video about how Christianity like changed the world,
yeah.
right, and for the better.
But anyways, uh, I'm getting kind of tired here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this conversation is great. I definitely need to keep doing more of these.
Let me take another sip of this
Yeah.
wine.
Yeah, drink some more of your poison. Your evil toxic yeah, yeah, your evil toxic
You're
poison.
letting the devil come on upon you.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
man. This is the next irrelevant podcast. We're gonna be doing some more with my friend here, Robert.
I think the next podcast we should do should be on the Hegelian ideological family tree.
If you guys aren't familiar, that's that of
That include
communism, fascism, and
socialism,
yeah,
national socialism, international socialism, aka communism. But we definitely need to do a little bit more research and come up with a sketch of like the topics for that because that's a little
yeah, it's all those kind of like esoteric, um, you know, like what's another adjective to describe how those are kind of linked? It's like those esoteric kind of like
like
Gnostic and also
it's abstract.
abstract, anti Christian, Catholic, all those kind of
Yeah,
things. You know,
very like
secret society
yeah.
oriented, just
We'll
like
we'll have to talk. We'll
psyop.
have to talk more about this. But
Yeah, we will.
anyways, we'll have another podcast here soon
Oh yeah,
because this is a lot of fun.
we're
We're
gonna
gonna
do
do
the
another one.
podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna do
All right.
another one. All right, this has been the Irrelevant Podcast with Robert. I hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to be doing several episodes in the future. I hope you guys are enjoying this.